Welcome to another episode of the Muffed Punt podcast. My name is Brandon, and this week we're having another playoff round of the Muffed Punt podcast. I got all four hosts here this evening, and I'm definitely super excited to have another week of football talk with my best buds. Are you guys ready for another show?
Let's get it.
Oh, yeah. Let's go.
Startup topic for this week. I thought something would be a little fun for us. It's a little off to the side, but still something that I feel like all sports fans kind of might go through from time to time. We were talking about betting a little bit before the show started, and I kind of thought it'd be interesting to talk a little bit about memorabilia as well. So for me, I've kind of gone through the first time in my life going through trying to get like a signed jersey framed so that I can put it up on the wall. And when I go through doing that, obviously price is something that I didn't really realize was going to go pretty high pretty quickly. Other than price, though, one of the things that I was kind of curious, and maybe you guys know this, and if any of the listeners out there hear this, and if maybe they can let me know in the comment section below, like when you have a jersey that's worth a certain amount to you, do you mostly frame it for sentimental value, or do you frame it in hopes to add worth to it? Because like say you have a jersey that's worth like $500, for instance, and then you spend a couple $100 putting that in a frame. Is that then close to $1,000 jersey that you have in your possession then? Or is it still just something that you still kind of worth the same amount, you just chose to put a little more sentimental value into it? That's kind of how I want to start off the show. Any one of you guys can interject in.
Well, I can speak from experience, and, I've got a Claude Giroux jersey that is framed. My wife had it framed for me. Right after the Winter Classic of 2012, my wife bought me a ticket to go. Went with a good friend of mine, and so she got my ticket. She took my ticket along with the jersey and had it framed. And I will tell you that from my experience, I think it's more sentimental because the jersey that I have framed isn't an authentic jersey. Friends of mine bought that for me for Christmas. I believe it's a knockoff. I don't know if it was made in China or where it was made, but that doesn't matter to me because it's just the sentimental value of it, of my ticket there from the Winter Classic being an outdoor game, and obviously my first outdoor game, and that experience and the memories of it. So for me, it's sentimental. I mean, you can get a Joe Montana jersey and get it framed and have it signed and all of that. And maybe that's when you get into the value of it. But for my experience and me personally, it was all sentimental.
What about for either of you other guys? Like, do you guys have any memorabilia that you collect? And do you tend to like do a little bit more for like a sentimental reason, or do you tend to like look for trying to get some value out of it at some point?
So personally, I don't do jerseys. I've never really been into them. So it perplexes me that unless it's autographed, that a jersey could be worth like $500. Is that a real number?
What I was saying was for myself, I have a jersey that's signed. I just didn't want to be like all like first world problems. But like, and honestly, the jersey's worth about $1,000 and it is signed. And I was thinking about putting it up on my wall for the podcast for when we do the actual video portion of the show, because I thought it'd be really cool for the backdrop. But it's just to do the Cadillac of framing. It's actually more than the jersey's even worth. And I was just like, so if I get the frame and everything, does that double the worth of the jersey, or does it still worth the same? Like, why would I spend that much money to put it in a frame?
Yeah, I don't know. It's not something I would do just to add value. So it would have to be like a really big sentimental thing for me just to take the time out to go and get it framed.
Well, I think you're adding value by framing it. I just don't think you're going to get full market value. So if the jersey costs $500 and the framing costs $500, I don't think you're going to be able to just throw it online and get $1,000 out of it. I think you're going to lose some in almost like driving a car off the lot. It decreases in value immediately. So that's why I said, I mean, for me, it was sentimental, and, it's not signed. It's not anything like that. It's not, an authentic 100% real jersey. It's, like I said, a knockoff with just my ticket from the Winter Classic in it.
Yeah, like it's when I got the jersey, I got it as a gift, and it's a legit jersey, but I got it to wear. Like it wasn't something that I got to get signed. And I don't think when people go out to get jerseys signed, they normally like do the one they're going to wear around because I'm not going to wear it after that. I'm going to like, put it somewhere or put it up for show. I know some people still do. I have a friend that has like a signed Cole Hamels jersey, and they still wear it to games and stuff. I mean, obviously it's Cole Hamels; it's not like like a Hall of Famer or anything. But I don't know. Like I was just kind of curious because this has been my first go around with anything like this to like actually put my own time and effort into it. So I was just kind of curious as to what you guys thought memorabilia wise, because we're all sports fans and you guys are the guys that I know in my life that like sports either more or equal to as much as I do. So I was just kind of curious what your guys' thoughts were.
Yeah. Well, also, Brandon, it's a matter of who the player is too, right? So if you're getting a Hall of Fame player versus a guy that spent 2 years in the league and was out signing autographs just because he wanted to feel important, there's a difference in that. So if you're talking about let's say Mike Trout versus I don't know who would you even any like a minor league player, let's say
Bobby Boucher.
yeah. there's a difference obviously in that. So I feel like if you have a player of that stature in Mike Trout or Babe Ruth or Mickey Mantle or some of these like all-time legends, you're going to increase the value of that item. If it's just your everyday run-of-the-mill Joe Schmo player, it's not adding value. I think it's just adding sentimental value.
Awesome. I think that was a good warm up for us. Yeah. I wanted to get into.
I would like to say one thing real quick.
Go for it.
I haven't ordered a jersey ever. Like I had a Reggie White jersey and a Brett Favre jersey, and those were gifts. So I ordered a Josh Allen jersey last week, and I just want you guys to know it'll be here, I think, tomorrow. Otherwise, I'd be wearing it right now.
Pictures or it didn't happen.
Yeah, we need a picture for the actual spread that we're going to put up for the podcast. And
you got it.
So at the very end of the episode, we'll throw it up in for next week.
There we go.
Dude,
all right.
If we can get that signed by Josh Allen.
Oh yeah, there you go.
That's the dream. That's the dream.
So, dude, I'm taking that picture, right? And I'm going to @Josh Allen on Twitter from our podcast's Twitter page, and we'll see if we can get us a response.
That'd be awesome.
I highly doubt we will.
Wish.
Yeah. Hashtag he's special to us.
Yeah. You're such a penis. I hate you.
Well, getting into the playoff games of this last weekend, one of the things I know we wanted to talk about right off the bat was Mahomes. Is he going to be available this week? That game was certainly super crazy. The situations going on with Chad Henne towards the end of the game, which I want to get into a little bit more here in just a minute. But I kind of want to go through the roundtable here and get your guys' thoughts on the game. What did you guys think of the Chiefs game this last weekend?
I'll jump on this one first. So, I mean, it was definitely a lot closer game than I expected. I mean, obviously with Mahomes getting knocked out of the game, that kind of kept it even closer. I give the Browns credit. They stayed in, they hung tough and, kept it a close game. They had that awful break, fumbling that ball out of the back of the, into the end zone. I mean, the whole bunch of things on that play, just come to mind. Like first off, the guy pretty much speared him in the head. And then you have no flag or anything on that. And then the ball comes loose and goes through the back of the end zone, touchback. I mean, I know it's a rule. I think it's a pretty awful rule. I'm pretty sure that's something that they'll probably look at after the season's over. Because it really hurt the Chiefs. But other than that, I mean, the Chiefs hung on to win, and Andy's got some stones for calling that play. That's all I can say about that, going for that in that situation. But it worked out. So they move on.
Well, can we go back to that play with Sorensen, and he hits the guy and dude fumbles it out of bounds, touchback. Number one, that's, I think, the biggest play of the game. You go from almost getting that within a one score at that point, and then the Chiefs take that ball down and get a field goal after that. I don't recall. But going back to that hit in Sorensen, I mean, in a football play, I mean, I haven't played. You guys, Terry and Paul, you guys have played. But when you're trying to prevent somebody to getting into the end zone, and especially that close to the end zone, I don't have a problem with that hit. I don't think it's, it was head to head, but when you have one player going horizontal, jumping towards the end zone, you have one player coming across parallel or perpendicular to him, you're not going to be able to avoid a hit like that. And I think it was a hell of a play by Sorensen. If I'm a fan of the Chiefs, that's one of the plays of the year right there. I mean, you think about the momentum shift there. Yes, it was head to head, but what can he do about it?
So for this, it comes down to what the NFL says and what the NFL actually does. The NFL says that they want to prevent brain injuries. The NFL does nothing to prevent them. This to me was a pretty clear case of leading with a helmet. I mean, he put his head down and just went after him. I don't have a problem with the fumble rule personally. I think every other rule in this game is designed to let the offense score points. So for as someone who played defense for forever, it's nice to see that, hey, we can do something without the refs finding a way to let the offense score again.
Yeah, and I don't have a problem with the whole helmet to helmet, and yeah, I mean that's the way the rules are written in the NFL right now, and the way they should be enforced. But from a perspective of what if the guy was 6 inches one way or the other, and his helmet hits the ball and not the dude's helmet? I think
I don't have a problem with the helmet to helmet hit. Sometimes those are 1,000% unavoidable. I have a problem with leading with the helmet. He ducked his head and just plowed right into him with it. So that's the only. But I mean, that's what I hate is sometimes people end up getting called for helmet to helmet because someone's going down and the defender tries to go after the midsection. Well, now that's all of a sudden his helmet. You can't adjust that fast. It's physically impossible. But this was one where it was a clear, to me at least, cut case of leading with a helmet.
And everything's easy when you're looking at it in 100 frames per second slow motion.
I'm going to have to agree with Paul on this one. It's there's situations that are unavoidable to, go helmet to helmet. Like the one play that just comes to mind recently was in the Clemson and Ohio State game when the middle linebacker comes up and he puts his head down in that game, makes a clean, what looks to be a pretty clean tackle, just a hard tackle, but his helmet goes right into the guy's side. They call him for targeting on that. So the college football is pretty consistent with their calls when there's the head involved in initiating the tackle. But the NFL isn't consistent in the call because as the receiver is lunging for the end zone, Sorensen, like this, I mean, I would say it almost looked like a spear. Like he was like a spearing hit to his head.
Do you think that falls on Mr. Riveron, as Pat McAfee says, a bit of a stooge as far as refs go? What do you think? Do you think that where does that consistency? Does it fall apart on the field with the refs? Does it fall apart in the booth? Where does that not translate?
That falls into not having anybody in New York that can buzz up and say, hey, that shouldn't have happened.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I mean, by the rule of the land, when a running back is, going through the line, if he lowers his helmet, that's a penalty, right? But
and that never gets called.
It never gets called. It happens on every play.
how do we fix as far as the fumble part goes? Because obviously the part with the blow to the head or leading with the head is going to be a little more subjective. But we can say, as far as with the fumble goes, we can do something about that. So one of the things that I've been hearing a lot about is, instead of having it to where the defense gets the ball, maybe we do a loss of down, and then you get the ball, you get to keep the ball, offense does, but you get the ball either somewhere between the 15 and the 25. I've heard different arguments for each one, but I didn't know if you guys had some particular feelings, especially with the two guys that played football on the show, of a way that we could fix that rule, specifically the fumble part of it, and make it so that it's because I feel like it's too punitive to the offense. Although I do agree with Paul, the vast majority of the rules that we have do cater to offense, and it is nice to have one that does do something for the defense for a change. But I mean, do we fix it then? Do we not? What do you guys think?
I think you're trying to fix a problem that doesn't exist.
Okay, that's an interesting take. Give me your thoughts on that.
I don't think that this is a problem. This is a play that very rarely comes into existence. I mean, fumbled out of the back of the end zone like that, 3 times a year, maybe, if you look at every game played. It's something that it's just one of those things where it's unfortunate if it happens to you, but this is what the game's about. There's always randomness thrown in, and adapting and overcoming. I think that if you take this out, then you're pandering to people who want to see more points on the board. And offense is exciting. Everybody knows that. But at what point is it enough?
So if we have a lot of hosts this week, Pat McAfee, guys, everybody knows I watch it because I talk about him all the time. Rich Eisen, some other guys that were all saying that this is like the dumbest rule in football. Why do you guys disagree with that specifically?
You also had Kurt Warner going on and on about how all playoff games should be played in domes so that the elements don't impact what happens. This is an outdoor game.
I do think that's dumb. I very much
exactly.
think that's dumb.
Kurt Warner does not deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. He had a couple good years. He is in the Hall of Fame and revered for his play as a quarterback. Dude, you played in a dome, and apparently that's the only reason you were any good.
Yeah, I think when he was in New York, he was pretty terrible. But I just, for me personally, to me, that was like a backbreaker for the Browns. I mean, they drove down and the fumble out of the back of the end zone. I mean, that really killed their chances at that point. So yes, I agree that it is like such a rare occasion that it comes up, but it basically, you basically, however long that drive was, I can't remember, but let's just say for numbers sake, let's say that was an 8-minute drive. You drove all the way down there. You're at least going to get a field goal from where you were on the field. You're at least putting points on the board. Your guy tries to make a play, lunging play at the end zone. Ball comes out and goes out of the back of the end zone, and you have absolutely nothing. I mean, to me, I feel like maybe a loss of down, and you replay the play from where you started the ball before. I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure how
about don't fumble the ball out of the end zone.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Was a Stefanski came forward, Belichick came forward, and they all said that they always teach their guys not to do that. And I get that, but I also think that it was also a bit agitated, if you will, by the dude's helmet who rammed into him. And I think that possibly might not have happened in that particular instance if it hadn't have been driven out by the other guy's helmet, where I feel like, yes, he was reaching, but I don't know. I feel like it was kind of aided in this particular instance. I don't feel like it was a total, like I was reaching and then I just, fumbled the ball all in my own volition.
I would say if they called it the way they should have, it should have been a penalty for the head-to-head, the spear hit to the head, which then basically negates the fumble.
Exactly. And 100%. And it gives them the ball at the half-yard line because it would have been half the distance to the goal. So
and then they still score or they at least get a field goal out of it.
Right. So this is a poor referee that happened. The penalty that wasn't called that should have doesn't have anything to do with the rule.
Yep,
Right.
I think we got down to the bottom of that, just like I wanted to. Thanks, guys. So one of the other things that I wanted to talk about, I wanted to mention is a little bit later in that same game. It's 4th and inches. Chad Henne has the ball. There's about 1 minute and 19 seconds left on the clock. The previous play, the defense gets burned for 13 yards by Henne running the ball. If Paul or Terry, if you guys are playing defense for the other team, you're in that situation. The Chiefs put their running back in motion. What's going through your mind on defense? Like, are you thinking that they aren't running a play? Are you thinking they're trying to call you off sides? Are you thinking they're going to try to get the ball to Tyreek? What's going through your mind?
Don't jump.
Yeah, that would be exactly what this is like. They run these motion plays on that intentionally to try and get a hard count, to try and get somebody to quick jump off sides. If I was in that situation, I would just be, you watch that football until it's hiked, don't move.
So if you're on the defensive side then, and what happened, are you okay with that? Because your mindset was, I'm okay to be a second late on this because then I'm not jumping this ball?
100% without a second thought.
Because if you jump off sides, the game's over anyway.
Exactly.
So you have to kind of play back on your heels in that situation. I mean, the fact that Tyreek Hill is like the fastest guy in the league, that doesn't help things for you. But you're also having to bank on the fact that Chad Henne's the one that's got to try and get him the ball in that tight window, because that was still a tough throw where it was. I mean, that's why Andy making that call it's ballsy, because I mean you could have easily just stopped, call timeout and punted it away, make them go the length of the field. But maybe he said to him, if they don't jump and he's in motion, just go for it.
Yeah, and playing defense, I'm not thinking that the backup quarterback is doing anything aside from trying to draw me offsides.
I was just curious because, like, me, I love mindset stuff. And, to me, I think it helps to understand the game better. So when I see that, I do wonder, like, if the defense is like, I'm cool to live with that because I know that I did what I could do in that situation.
Yeah. And one last thing to touch on the fumble real quick. Sorry. I'd be fine if the offense or if the defense got the ball at the 1 or wherever the fumble happened. I just don't want the offense to get the ball back. If you fumble, you fumble. Just my opinion.
I think that where we came to that is great. It's just that, if the thing that happened before that had been called correctly, then the actual fumble itself wouldn't have mattered and it would have meant nothing.
Right. But I mean, that rule still exists out there in the player in the rule book.
And that's what the actual people who do I want to say the commission, but I could be the rules committee. That's what I was looking for. That is exactly verbatim what they said, is that it doesn't happen frequently enough for them to feel the need to change it.
Gotcha.
Cool. One of the other things that I wanted to mention just to wrap up the Chiefs game is we all saw Mahomes go down, and we were talking a little bit about it in our group conversation, our group chat over the weekend. We were kind of talking a little bit about, if it looked like a concussion, if it didn't look like a concussion. I heard today they were saying that he doesn't really have any symptoms, but he hasn't been brought out of the concussion protocol. Is that right, Paul?
Yeah. And how about that as a cooler? How would you like to lose a former league MVP, someone who's probably going to go on to break all the records? As of right now, they're not saying too much. I've seen kind of disputed reports other than at the end of the game, Andy Reid said he wasn't in protocol. Today, all the reporting is that he is in protocol, but he has passed some of the 5 steps in order to get back for this next game.
I saw a video that I had posted into our group chat that was a doctor. I don't know who this guy was. Some guy that was probably just trying to make a name for himself, talking about how he didn't really feel like it was a concussion, that Mahomes more got like choked on the way down and then kind of like jerked. And I was just kind of saying in our chat about how I don't necessarily think it needs to be an impact per se that causes the concussion. I think it can also just happen from having your head and neck whipped in a particular direction hard enough that it can cause impact to your brain, to the side of your skull. So I've unfortunately been knocked unconscious once or twice, and I've had my bell rung several times. I used to box a bit, so I know for me it's that when I saw the wobbly legs, I was like, oh, looks like he got his bell rung a little bit, but I didn't really know if for you guys when you saw it, did you guys think immediately concussion? Did you think maybe he just got hit on the button? Like, what were you thinking there?
At first, the first thought was that you saw him roll up and then his legs wobble underneath him. That was a concussion. I knew he was done for the rest of the day. And yeah, I mean, DQ'd, whatever, just out at that point. It sucks because, I mean, it's Patrick Mahomes, but I don't understand why people are so hesitant to call it a concussion. I mean, so at this level where they're playing college in the NFL, when you hit someone else, it is essentially a car accident. Do you always hurt yourself in a car accident? No, but you can get internal wounds from things inside. It's not always going to be a broken bone. Things get thrown around with a lot of torque in there. So I have no problem thinking that he had a concussion. And the leg wobble for me was the confirmation.
With the rubber legging was the, I mean, and then when they spotlighted his eyes, like when they zoomed in the camera on his eyes, you could see he was a little confused about what just happened. So, I mean, I'm with Paul. I knew he was going to be done for the day at that point. But you know, the whole tackle was kind of a strange hit, because it wasn't a direct hit to the head or anything like that. But he kind of lassoed him with his arm, and we had said during the group text maybe that whip, or that maybe it was like an inadvertent knockout in a way. I know he did kind of come down on the crown of his head a bit, but it looked like there was a hand underneath. But even if that hand's there, I don't think that really matters. It could have had some impact on his brain. But I mean, I knew as soon as I saw that they spotlighted his eyes. I mean, I said to my dad, I said, he's done. I said, you won't see him back in the game today.
So I obviously don't want you guys to get into who you think is going to win the game, because we're going to do that in a few minutes here. But do you guys think he starts this coming week?
No doubt.
I think he's playing
50-50.
Let me just back up to the hit, guys, and give you my take. I agree with both Paul and Terry in the fact that, initially it looks like, a concussion, but let me play devil's advocate for a second here. I don't know if anybody here has lost consciousness, not from an impact or concussion like hit or anything like that. Like, I'm talking just lose consciousness, whether it be extracurriculars that you may have imbibed on or done or put yourself through as a early teen or late teenager into your 20s.
I've partied quite a lot. I have not passed out in that particular manner and lost consciousness, but does it not for lack of trying?
Without giving away too much, guys, there's been, I've experienced at least once losing consciousness, and it wasn't because I was doing anything bad. At the time, I wasn't doing anything at all, really, but I lost consciousness and I went down. I mean, I just dropped to the floor, done, out. And that in and of itself is the very definition of wobbly legs and not knowing where you're at. And when I came to, and it took me a few seconds to kind of gather my faculties a little bit and kind of come to again. But that hit to me at first screamed concussion. But then when I saw the replay, I'm like, well, there's no real clear, concise impact. And I agree with you, Brandon, where you said you don't necessarily need that. It can be a quick jerk and your brain just hits the side of your brain, of your skull, and away you go on a concussion. But it just looked from a replays perspective. And again, we go back to that 100 frames per second kind of stuff where slow motion can make something look really bad, or slow motion can make something look not as bad as it really was. I don't know what the case was in Mahomes' situation here, but It just didn't look like it was that bad. And when I looked at the replay, and I'm thinking, did he get choked out? Like, could that have been it? Because honestly, like if you lose consciousness from being choked out, like Brendan, you can speak to this from an MMA perspective.
Yep.
Is when you get choked out, you're donezo. You're not doing anything. Your legs go, your brain goes, everything goes.
Yeah, but you usually can know it's coming ahead of time. That's why the only thing that to me is hard for me to believe that the choke was actually long enough to have that much effect, because you have to cut off the blood flow to the brain for like a decent several seconds before you actually have that occur. Because I know for myself, like if you get like in a rear naked choke or something of that nature, you know, like, okay, I need to tap or else I'm going to go to sleep. So I think with that, you have that instantaneous second of knowing that. But to me, that means that it has to actually occur that half a second longer in time. But
that makes sense.
Yeah. So when I watch that and I see the way that came down, I don't really feel like the choke was long enough for it to, in and of itself, cause that. I feel like the way the guy whipped him across himself is what might have caused the actual concussedness of it. Or when he brought his arm down to tackle him, I think he might have got him on the button on the jaw, or as Terry mentioned, on the side of the head. Because when I used to box, man, if you tap, you don't even have to hit somebody that hard. You just get them in the right spot and your legs are going to just drop.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I think the league has to save face with all the stuff they've been talking about, the head injuries. So I think that's why this is being, this is in the forefront of the conversation. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure that he's gonna pass all the protocols going through the rest of the week, because he was only on the sidelines for a few minutes and he jogged to the back, looked fine there. Who knows? But I don't think there's any way that Roger Goodell and the NFL don't let their $500 million man miss the AFC champion.
So what do you guys think about that if it gets to the point where we're heading towards the end of the weekend? I know I saw Colin Cowherd was saying online that they should postpone the game until Mahomes can play. What do you guys think about that? Yeah, dead serious.
I think that Colin Cowherd needs to shut his mouth. He is. Have you looked at some of his picks for this season? Who did he pick? The Ravens to go undefeated, the Steelers to go 2-14. He has no idea what football is. He is an old talking head that appears to be senile and should probably be put out to pasture.
I only watched that show for Joey Taylor, but I didn't say that.
He also has the largest desk I've ever seen.
his desk setup is
three times as large as the seat that's sitting next to him.
I don't care, dude. His setup is pimp. I give him that. It's very clean. I love the multiple TV setup behind him. He's got a nice little setup, and he, like you said, he puts himself up over top of the guest. That dude's ego has to be 8 million stories tall. But
yeah.
I just thought it was hilarious that I'm like, these guys have so much balls sometimes as sportscasters to come out and be like, no, they should pause the playoffs for Mahomes. That's what should happen.
If I never heard from him or Skip again, it'd be too soon.
Well, just keep listening to the end of this episode.
You forgot the T. You forgot the T.
Yeah, my bad. I haven't had enough Tennessee tonight.
Oh, speaking of which, I heard Aaron Rodgers had himself a couple fingers of scotch after the game. Did you guys happen to catch the interview of the Pat McAfee show today?
Not yet, no.
I definitely suggest checking it out. I do say, for one thing that I've called about these Aaron Rodgers interviews pretty much all year long is that guy is in a wholly separate headspace. I have not seen a happier human being. Did you guys catch during the game? I thought Paul would have been giggling like a little girl. Aaron Rodgers is down, getting ready to do the fake count, and you hear the guy from the other sidelines like, "You ain't getting us with this shit." Aaron Rodgers still goes down and does the and then the guys don't move, and Aaron Rodgers just giggles to himself. I had to do it. I had to still try. I can't just not go through the motions. Oh man, I was dying. I was like, he's literally laughing at the defense.
Greatest hard count of all time. I loved it. It was amazing.
How much do you have to be, like, well, I'll call it feeling yourself, if you will, as a player, or just in a great headspace when you're in a playoff game and you're having such a good time that you can kind of sit back and laugh at particular situations that happen? Like, to me, that dude is like the embodiment of Zen right now as far as quarterbacks go. Like, I don't know what enlightenment happened to him in the offseason. I don't know if it was ditching Danica or what, but dude, man, I just feel like is in an amazing headspace.
I've heard a lot of good things since he ditched Danica. That should be a hashtag, ditch Danica, for anybody in a relationship with her next.
That's got to be tough, but we've been down that road on the podcast. I don't want to beat her up too bad.
She's making a left turn.
Another left turn.
Look, I would like to clarify. I have no problem with women breaking barriers at all. I think it's great. But when you're famous for finishing second once at one race ever a really long time ago, maybe you shouldn't be that famous. Maybe you're not that good.
Yep. We talked about this.
She crashed a lot. Hey, just real quick, Paul, you mentioned women, breaking barriers and whatnot. But did you guys see that Thomas, the female referee, is going to be the first female to, be a ref in the Super Bowl this year? I thought that was pretty good, pretty remarkable. In a year that left a lot of us kind of scratching our heads, to have some good news like that, I felt was pretty cool to see. I'm glad it's finally happening, that women are getting involved in the sport and coaching and refereeing and everything. So kudos to her.
Yeah, that was awesome. Good for her.
Yeah, that's good. It's good to hear.
There was
the didn't we talk about it before, the GM for, was it the Marlins too?
Marlins.
That was recently. Yeah. So it's that you're definitely starting to see that things are going in the right direction for women in sports after, they really hadn't seen them in any kind of positions like these over, decades of sport. So it's good to see.
Now, if only Eric Bieniemy can get hired.
It's been a very odd situation. Like, I've heard so many different takes on that, especially from Lou Riddick. Lou Riddick was on the Dan Patrick Show, and I was watching some clips of that over the weekend, and he was talking about how he just doesn't know what it is about Bieniemy, if it's that people are holding things against him from his past, or like what it is specifically that's kind of bringing things to be the way they are with how that situation has come about. But it is interesting to see that we might go a whole nother offseason and not see him get another head coaching job.
All right. So the fact that anybody is saying that this is anything aside from race related is kind of naive, in my opinion. If I might believe it if it was a white guy, or if there were more black coaches in the NFL, but there's almost no black coaches ever in the NFL. So I'm pretty sure we know what the real reason is as to why he might not get a job.
I think that's what Lou Riddick was insinuating, is that for whatever reason, the owners are not willing to put their teams on the shoulders of a black head coach.
Right. And that's something that is wrong with the NFL right now. How can you have a league where 70% of the players are black and you have 2 head coaches, 3 head coaches sometimes? It's just insanity.
It makes no sense.
No.
But they get those Rooney Rule guys in there, don't they? Every time there's those head coaching hires, there's always those guys that you're like, why are they interviewing that guy? Oh, because it's like some random dude you've never heard of. Yeah,
dude, I think Kellen Moore could be Sean McVay. I think Kellen Moore has a chance to be special.
I think Kellen Moore had more knowledge than he had ability. And I think that's what really helps him in doing the coaching, is that he really had to rely on his knowledge of the game to excel versus his actual God-given ability.
Exactly. Did you see him play in the NFL? He could not complete a 5-yard in. He had no arm strength. He was in the league for like 3 years. Dude has so much knowledge.
I just feel like Paul's like catfishing me here or something.
No, I promise. I legitimately think that Kellen Moore is going to be a great head coach someday.
Really?
Yeah.
You know who else? Not to cut you off. I'm sorry. But Jason LaCanfora, he was talking on Twitter today about Mike Kafka, and he was like, "This guy's got a bright future ahead of him." I'm like, Mike Kafka? He was like a fifth, sixth round pick by Andy Reid with the Eagles. Like, barely played, if at all, maybe in the preseason, and he's just become like Andy Reid's like new Doug Peterson, I guess. But I mean, I don't know, maybe, but I just don't see these guys being the next, the next Bill Belichick. I don't think Kellen Moore doesn't do anything for me. I don't think, he's been the OC for Dallas for the last 2 years. I mean, I don't see where he's done anything earth shattering with them.
He made Dak Prescott look good.
Arguably twice.
Yeah, I mean,
come on, that was a better joke than that. Go ahead, sorry.
I was just going to jump in on the Mike Kafka thing. I mean, to me, like Andy Reid's coaching tree is pretty deep, and I feel like sometimes he drafts some of these guys knowing that they're pretty smart, like college quarterbacks. Like Kafka's like Northwestern guy is pretty smart. I mean, I've heard Reuben Frank had mentioned that, like, back when he drafted him, he's like, this guy seems like he's going to be like a coach someday. Like he's not going to be a player, but he's going to be a coach. I mean, I feel like Andy Reid has a ton of those guys that come out of his tree that they're terrible NFL players, but they have solid coaching minds. So, I mean, I think Kafka and Kellen Moore are both going to get coaching gigs at some point, but I think it's maybe a little too early for them. I mean, they're both Kafka's only a quarterback's coach right now, and Kellen Moore's only a two seasons as OC. But right. I mean, everybody's looking for the next Sean McVay. And
let's be honest. I think Eric Bieniemy deserves a chance before either one of those. No several of the ones that have already been hired.
No doubt. I mean, could it possibly be that he just doesn't like any of the situations that he could possibly go to?
It's possible. The only two left are the Eagles and Texans, and both I'm sure are not viewed as very good.
Both are terrible. They're
not viewed very highly by coaches at this point. I mean, but think of it though. It's one of 32. It's one of 32. You've got a chance to be one of 32 head coaches in the NFL. I don't care who you are. You're going to want a chance at that. Like if you are, and you consider yourself that big of a coach and that good of a coach, and you think that you can be a leader of men, and you can, your coaching style, and you're that good of a coach that you can turn around a player, or you can turn around a franchise. I don't care if you're coaching, a college team in the NFL. I think you feel like, and you're such an alpha male that you feel like you can do that. And I don't care who you're coaching for, whether it's the worst of the worst situation or the best of the best. I just, I don't feel like anybody should just turn their nose up at an NFL coaching job.
I disagree with you in a lot of that, mainly for the reason that we live in an age where everything is all about immediacy. We want to win now. Do you think that whoever, Saleh, who just got the job as the head coach for the Jets, do you really think he is going to hang around long enough to get them into the playoffs? They don't have a roster. They don't have anybody capable of drafting. They don't have a front office. They're going to fail. It is not Saleh's fault. I think that you have to be picky with it, because if you're worried about, well, this is one of 32 and it's never going to come up again, well, you're not betting on yourself. So if you don't think that you are going to be able to get the next job, maybe you're not worth this job or the next job. But I think that Bieniemy last year, I think he was very overlooked. This year, I think he's going to be picky because he knows that he can bet on himself. What are the odds that he gets Patrick Mahomes and looks bad next year, if that's your worst case?
Yeah, I mean, and he's not going anywhere. I mean, even if he stays with the Chiefs, I mean, he's still going to be relevant in any coaching, pick going forward. You know, he's already thought of to be as probably the top guy. But I agree with you, Paul. It's all about the culture and the front office and the place that you're going has to all fit, because it's a, what have you done for me lately type of league. And, coaches don't last more than a couple of years unless you're in the playoffs year 2.
Yeah, I agree with that. And the other thing I wanted to bring up was, I think it was Ralph, you were pretty hesitant on like a late round pick being a coach. Can you name a superstar who's been an amazing GM or
John Elway,
coach? You think he's amazing?
Got him a Super Bowl.
You got him a Super Bowl because he convinced Peyton Manning to sign a contract. He didn't have to do anything.
Maybe he's the reason why Peyton went there.
Okay, but it still has nothing to do with skill. That's, hey, I want to be around this guy.
Peyton wasn't the only player on that team.
Right, I get that. But do you think, so what, since when did they win? 12, 13?
What's this, Super Bowl 55 coming up? So Super Bowl 50, 5 years ago.
5 years ago. Does that roster look like it can make the playoffs anytime soon?
No, not now, but back then they were perennial playoff contenders
with Peyton Manning.
I get that, but what I'm saying is, I'm not just saying it. John Elway's the first one that came to mind.
Okay, give me another one then, because I mean, if this is going to be something where you want this to be the rule and not the exception, aside from John Elway.
Wasn't Shula a player and a coach?
I don't know if he was a Hall of Fame player, but that's before my time. I do not remember anything about Don Shula.
What about Pat Riley, like for NBA?
Okay, Pat Riley. he won. I'll give you Pat Riley.
All right, I got one for you. That was a good player in the NFL. That was a great GM, Ozzie Newsome for the Ravens.
Yeah. There are exceptions to the rule.
There's a few exceptions, but I agree with what you're saying. It doesn't necessarily.
Wait. I got one. How about because they were talking about him possibly coming in to coach the Eagles as a long shot because he's in college right now. Herm Edwards.
Herm has a long career of being mediocre. That's just my opinion. But I mean, you look at Jordan. Jordan's the worst owner in the NBA. If he's not the worst owner, he's pretty close. He drafts all the time. Those are terrible draft classes. But I think Herm Edwards, I think he's overrated personally.
Well, I would think that Paul would have some things to say about the front office not drafting Aaron Rodgers, a receiver. But I mean, it didn't really matter. They're still in the NFC Championship game, but so they didn't draft any receiver to pair up with Devontae Adams, but they went and they tried to draft his replacement, which clearly was a wasted pick. So I mean. Front offices are always all over the place, but I mean, there's ones
Aaron
that
Rodgers a wasted pick when he was seen as the
no. I'm talking about Love,
right? So
they just drafted this year,
right? But I'm saying you have no idea how he's going to turn out. He's going to sit for at least a few years. Can't call it a wasted pick.
I mean, but wouldn't you say if Aaron Rodgers is playing at probably some of the best football he's played right now?
I will tell you why.
Load him up with more?
Absolutely. I will tell you that I hated the pick, but you can't call it a terrible pick because you don't know how the guy's going to be. I wish that they would have gotten him any position player that could have made a difference. But I mean, I think it's tough to call it a wasted pick until you see how he turns out, because if this is Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Rodgers leaves the Packers in a few years and goes somewhere else, and then Jordan Love comes in and turns into a perennial Pro Bowler, it's going to be seen as a great pick. So while I didn't agree with that at the time, don't agree with it now, maybe in the future I will.
So that brings me to my point that I wanted to bring up very early in the podcast. I think it was like the first couple episodes, Paul, that we did together. You and I had talked about, or you had brought up rather, that the Packers should do like a Herschel Walker style trade of Aaron Rodgers. Seeing everything over the last year, you guys are in the playoffs, potentially going to the Super Bowl. Do you still feel the same way?
So that was said when Mike McCarthy was the coach, or maybe not when he was the coach, but when he was the latest memory. And it looked like it was going to be a deep rebuild. I was maybe premature on that, but I would have said that, or when I said that, I knew that he would have been a Super Bowl contender going to any other team, but it didn't look like the Packers were going to be what they are now. So I disagree with my younger self. I was dumb and young, wet behind the ears, but I don't think that it's ever a bad idea to try to get a Herschel-like return.
I was just curious your thoughts on that. I remember that this week, and I was like, I kind of wonder if he feels the same way. Obviously, it's a wholly different kind of situation now than what it was when we talked about that originally. But it's, I think with him, that was part of the gamble. Like, no one knew that this enlightenment, if you will, for lack of a better word, was going to happen for him. That dumping Danica was going to be such an uplifting experience for him. So it's
hashtag dump Danica.
Yeah, exactly. We got to start that on the podcast. But yeah, man. So I just feel like for when I was reviewing that and kind of going over that to myself, that I was kind of curious what your headspace is. But I understand. So you feel like now you'd want to keep him, or do you feel like if that trade came along and you were the GM of the Packers that you would do it
this year?
This off season, yeah.
Oh, this off season I would keep it because they've got a good roster.
Because you're probably going to lose Aaron Jones.
Obvious. Aaron Jones is gone.
Yeah,
but I also agree with that because I don't think you pay running backs anymore.
Yeah, I think there's been several cases, unfortunately, that have led to that. And plus the running back offseason, I don't know if you guys have seen the free agent running backs in this offseason, but holy cow, it's going to be interesting. This whole offseason is going to be absolutely insane. The quality of players that are out there to grab are just, to me, I think, way more plentiful than usual.
Yeah, I think that Todd Gurley and Zeke are kind of proof that you don't pay running backs anymore.
Speaking of which, Todd Gurley is going to be on the market again this offseason.
Is he?
Fairly positive Todd is, yeah.
He won't get a big contract this time.
So, all right, I think that'll wrap up our main speaking portions here of the podcast. I know we had talked about possibly going into a little bit of the whole Tua thing, but we've already hit an hour, so maybe we'll save that for next week. Why don't we go through these predictions, and then we'll wrap her up.
Sounds good. Let's go. We got NFC Championship game to lead off Sunday. Buccaneers heading to Green Bay. This is the matchup I thought was going to be the NFC Championship game when we started the playoff picks. I mean, I like what I saw out of the Buccaneers last week. I thought the defensive game plan that they came up with was good. Brady and the offense is still in the stride. They ran the ball a lot more than I expected them to. So they were way more balanced. I think you might see a little less of that this week. I don't know. We'll see. The Packers defense was also a little surprising to me this past weekend. I thought that they looked really good. So I think they got some momentum going in. Obviously their offense is, strong, but I'm not going away from my pick. I'm going with the Packers to win this one and move on to the Super Bowl. I also forgot to give you guys the line. Packers are a 3-point home favorite. So about even.
Yeah. I am also going to go Packers on this one. Surprise. This is a nerve-wracking game for me because there are so many weapons that the Buccaneers have, but they didn't look that great last week. I think that the defense is much improved from where it was. I don't think that the Packers offense is going to be held back. And I just, Aaron Rodgers at home in an NFC championship, he's waited for this his whole career. So let's see what happens. But I'm going to roll with the Packers because they're my Super Bowl pick still.
Hey, Paul, can I ask you a quick question?
No. Thanks for asking.
Ask the question I want to ask.
Well, I don't know if this is the question you want to ask or not, but what's the over-under on Ndamukong Suh and Aaron Rodgers being friends again?
About as likely as getting back together with Danica. I don't know.
Do you think they'll meet up in the parking lot finally after the game?
Ndamukong Suh, I think he looks like the craziest person I've ever seen in my life. And I've seen a lot of crazy people, like
All right,
friends,
hold
fame.
on. Are you more scared? You're in a dark alley, right? You're gonna picture this. Close your eyes. You're in a dark alley. You're by yourself. You
Dark
open your
alley.
eyes. Are you more scared to see Ray Lewis or Ndamukong?
Oh shit. Oh man, I'd have to go with Ray because allegedly there's some murdering that might have happened at some point, and Dominican Sue, he just wants to stomp you into the ground and then run away. So I guess I'd rather be stomped in the ground when I'm laying down than murdered or allegedly murdered or whatever. So yeah, don't give me Ray.
Man. Ralph, you want to get your pick before I do mine, bud?
Well, I got a question for Paul real quick. What are you going to do if this ends up being Pack versus Bills in the Super Bowl? Are you wearing the Josh Allen jersey?
No,
Ooh.
no. don't. Come on. Would I ask if you were going to wear a Dak Prescott jersey? Like, what is wrong with you? Go f yourself.
Honestly, I feel like it's been the Pack all year. I'm taking the Pack. Obviously, that line kind of screams that basically it boils down to a pick 'em. But no, I think Aaron Rodgers is playing. He's just too good. He's too good right now, and that supporting cast he's got is something to behold right now. So I'll take the Pack in this one.
I'm definitely going Packers in this one as well. I think that for me, I've all year long I've said I felt that Brady and the Bucs were going to go deep into the playoffs, but I just didn't see him going to the Super Bowl this year. Maybe next year, but like Paul said, their defense made some mistakes last week. Devin White is a star, but the rest of that defense I think has definitely got some trouble. So I'm going to go Pack in this one.
Hey, real quick, Brandon. Since 1990, what was it? 1995, 96. You know how many times the Cowboys have been in the NFC Championship game? Do you know how many times Tom Brady's going to be in the NFC Championship game?
Why don't you refresh our memory? I'm pretty sure the Cowboys was once, right?
No.
Oh, it was none. Oh, I thought I was giving him too much credit. Oh, goddamn.
How sick is Tom Brady? 2 out of every 3 years he plays, he gets in an NFC or in a championship game. That's just, come on, really?
Well, I don't know if you guys saw, but after the Saints game, he was out in the field with Drew Brees and his kids.
Yeah, that was horrible.
A coworker of mine was he's a Patriots fan, and he was on the Patriots subreddit, and he was like, how savage of Tom Brady to be out there throwing touchdowns to their kids and being like, this is what your dad couldn't do.
Wow. How salty are the Patriots fans? Good Lord. Wow. You guys missed the playoffs one time and you're already ready to burn people. Like, good Lord.
Oh, that's amazing.
I think that was definitely a touching moment for me because I feel like that might be Drew Brees' last time on the field, and we're not very far removed from what could possibly be Tom Brady's last time on the field. And I think Brady clearly had an idea as to what was going on there. So for him to do what he did made me hate him a little less.
Not much,
but still a little less.
Okay, so do you guys like underdogs or do you hate underdogs?
Clearly, we love underdogs. Rocky.
Okay. Tom Brady is the underdog that came true, and you guys hate him for it. You hate underdogs. Shut up.
You're not an underdog when you win for 20 years.
Yeah, but now you're just laying on the hatred. No, you're not an underdog anymore, but now you just hate him.
Dude, you're going to run out of money having to buy all these jerseys. You already have a Josh Allen jersey. Now you're going to have to buy a Tom Brady jersey. Like, if you just keep laying all this love down, you're going to your wallet's going to be broke before
the guy that says he's never bought a jersey before is going to have like a wall full of them.
He's going to have to buy two. He's going to have to buy a Patriots one and a Bucks one.
He's going to have a love triangle between his jerseys. He's going to have an Aaron Rodgers jersey, a Josh Allen jersey, and a Tom Brady jersey. They're all going to be in his closet, but never shall the three touch. They can't actually face each other. They have to be in different ends of the closet.
And the only way it'll ever be complete is if he buys a Danica Patrick fire suit.
Oh! That's the Thanos gauntlet right there, man. Paul could do the snap after that.
I'm gonna see all three of them after their careers and be like, "Baby, come back."
Maybe what you could do is you could have like a tearaway jersey, and then like you could have a different one under each one, depending on who wins the game.
There we go. That's what we'll do from now on.
We'll have your Packers jersey over top, but then you could tear it away to your Josh Allen jersey if the Pack loses to the Bills in the Super Bowl.
Oh my God.
I want to find, so to go with your Josh Allen jersey, what we need to find you is a pair of Buffalo Bills Zubas. Do you guys remember those from back in the day?
Oh my God, yes.
What the hell is a Zuba?
Zubas are the
like
old
You
school.
don't remember Zubas?
No.
They're the old
zebra
school
pants?
NFL zebra pants.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that's what they were called.
Yeah, man, that's the official name, Zubas.
Oh, that's dumb.
I had an Eagles pair, man. I remember those things. That's like the old school Charlotte Hornets starter jacket. Like everybody had one of those things.
No way. Throw those things in a cooler and don't ever look in the cooler again.
All right, we got one more game to pick, boys.
Yeah, we got the Bills. The Bills at the Chiefs.
Is he playing?
Paul's got to pick first
Yeah,
Why do I
I'm
have
gonna
to
leave.
pick?
Well,
because your
I'll
love
give you
affair
the
with
line.
Josh.
Yeah, Josh Allen's agent has to make his first pick here. So Kansas City's a 3-point favorite right now. Not knowing if Mahomes is going to play. Paul.
Paul said that if they win this game, Josh Allen's going to request a trade.
Well, I came into this and was the only one who didn't pick the Chiefs as my AFC team for the Super Bowl. And then since the Bills are still here, I'm gonna roll with them. I'm not gonna turn over on them right now.
You just bought the jersey. You can't do it now.
I can do whatever I want. Don't tell me my business, devil woman.
I would die if you bought the jersey and then you picked against them in the game. That would be amazing.
Wait, so now I have to pick them to go 16-0 every year?
No,
Come
but
on,
you got to at
that's
least
cool.
pick them through the end of this year.
No, I don't.
We'll see. We'll see.
If the Packers play in the Super Bowl and they play the Bills, at no point will I ever contemplate picking the Bills.
If the Packers don't make it to the Super Bowl, you're about to be
Then
the
I'll think
biggest
about
Bills
it. We'll
fan
see what
that you've
happens.
ever
We'll see.
seen.
That's obvious that I would consider that because I'd have to wear the jersey because that's
right.
what's going to happen.
Paul's going to be an honorary member of Bills Mafia.
I look forward to becoming a real one someday.
We'll get you an honorary dildo you can throw on the field. So where do we go from here, boys?
Yeah, who the hell was the last pick on this one? We went off on a tangent on that one. So Paul's picking the Bills. I think, are the rest of us picking the Chiefs?
Chiefs are my pick to win the Super Bowl. So
If Mahomes is playing, I'm still going Chiefs. So right now, my pick is going Chiefs.
Yeah, same here. I'm going Chiefs on this one. Them being at home, there's no way they lose the game.
So then now we're going to create the biggest monster in the world if the Chiefs lose this game. You guys realize that, right?
It's funny because it's true.
Yep, exactly.
we've been feeding this beast since this podcast started. Let's be honest.
Yeah, well, hey, wait till you see the new logo. It's going to take it to a whole other level. I told
all right, I
Paul.
would just like to point out that I'm the only one who got all 4 games right last week. All right.
Yes, we know you like to gloat. So, yes, Paul got all 4 games right last week. We bow down to Paul's greatness. He's not picking
That's right.
any more games after this week.
Yes, that's correct. Unless I go undefeated this week, then maybe one more.
Yeah, we'll see. I definitely want to make sure that we get back into things again next week. And I think we're going to have another game of Who Am I? If you guys are down for that. One of the things that I was thinking about doing is possibly Who Am I? The backup quarterback edition. What do you guys think about that?
That'd be fun.
I think it might be fun to go through a little bit of obscurity, but I'll try to keep it fun. I'll try to keep it semi-relevant to some things, and I think we can have some fun with that. I know we have ourselves kind of like an off week per se as far as the NFL goes when it comes to the Pro Bowl, because they're playing it on Madden, which is like the dumbest thing in the entire world. Why wouldn't you just cancel it? And Madden's broke this year anyway, which I think Paul and I have covered in past episodes anyway. But I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Do you guys have any final thoughts before we wrap up the show tonight?
No, this was fun.
Cool. Yeah, I had a good time tonight, too. Lots of laughs. I want to make sure everybody hits that like button. Make sure you subscribe. We're up to 63 subscribers, which may not be a lot to some, but to us, it's pretty freaking awesome. And we do very much appreciate each and every one of you. So if you haven't taken the time to do so, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below if you're on YouTube. If you're on SoundCloud, make sure you hit that little heart. Last week, we got 18 hearts. So we do appreciate each and every one of you that left us a little thank you there as well. Thank you, folks, for tuning in. Thank you guys for showing up as always. We'll be seeing you guys next week. Take it easy.
It's my turn. It is. You told me it was my turn.
You can talk all that you want to, yell and scream. You lost.
It is my turn.
You lost the game. Take as long as you want. You're still lost.